Alright folks, let's not mince words. I understand the reason why most of you guys are here right now. It's because of one commonality amongst us. We're all huge fans of an anime called Ranma 1/2, a manga series dating back to 1987, anime series dating back to 1989. Of all the anime I have ever watched, maybe of any physical media I have ever watched, no other has ever pulled me in with such a gonzo first impression. I can't even recall a time since where a show had me so sucked in, I absolutely had to see where it went next. I had heard of Ranma 1/2 long before seeing the anime, however, in an issue of Electronic Gaming Monthly, and seeing screen caps of a game called Ranma 1/2 Hard Battle. At the time, Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat were in vogue. All the copycats hadn't trickled in just yet, and we didn't see anyone going Bonsai Bunny with the Street Fighter formula, as they would in later years. I'm not gonna lie, it was solely seeing Genma that grabbed me. Instantly I was like, wow, it's like Street Fighter, I love Street Fighter, and I want to be a fighting panda! I want to play that game! But as I recall, it was a while before it saw a US release, and when it came out here, I didn't even know that it had. It almost didn't matter because in a later issue of EGM, I saw a screen cap of the Japanese game of Ranma 1/2 Chougi Ran Bu Hen, the sequel to Ranma 1/2 Hard Battle. After seeing that character select screen, that became the game that I wanted to play. All those characters, all so unique to each other. This was back in a time where a mere 8 was standard, and here we had 12! And that panda was back! From a cursory glance, it had me. For those of you who don't know, I did eventually get my hands on Hard Battle, and I did an extensive review on it, which you can find via the link below. To summarize, it was a very sluggish Street Fighter clone with extremely clumsy special move inputs. But it had a lot of character, and that went a long, long way. Not the greatest game, but still, I played the hell out of it. Now, at long last, I have Chougi Ran Bu Hen, the one that I really wanted to experience in my hands! And even though a lot of this is in Japanese and the story elements are going to be lost on me, I expect no less than to have my brains blown out the back of my skull by this game! Wow, I am not used to being so positive. They did this so simple. Almost took no effort to put this character select together, but still, ain't it perfect? We don't have any close-up art of your characters, no map to show you where your fighting venue is going to be, but why do you need all of that? Boom! There are your fighters! That's what they're going to look like, you even get to see some of their moves. A simple example of less being more. I love this character select. Graphics have seen an uptick since Hard Battle. Everyone looks a little more crisp, has a few more frames of animation, the color saturation isn't pumped through the roof like in Hard Battle, which gives it a distinctive look, although a lot of these sprites do seem ripped right from the original. Now don't get me wrong, these would all appear to be 100% redrawn sprites, but it definitely looks like some characters took inspiration from Hard Battle, in particular the Ranmas, Ryoga, Genma, and Ukyo. The special moves, thank God! They were not trying to reinvent the wheel with this one. They went with the tried and true Street Fighter motions to execute, and it works like a dream. Even without an instruction manual, if you choose a fighter, you could probably figure out his or her moves in a minute or two by testing out the usual tricks. Your characters are really beefed up with at least 4 unique moves apiece, including both offensive and evasive maneuvers, some of which require Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat controller inputs, while others are simply done by smashing 2 buttons at once. In addition, each character is preloaded with a super move, which is delivered by charging your controller with the L button and doing a more complex controller motion when the meter is flashing. I mainly didn't bother with these. Yeah, they're flashy and they will sap a third of your opponent's health bar, but not only are these moves difficult to pull off with a D-pad, but if you get hit merely once, you'll lose the charge. Chances are you'll get pegged with a projectile every time you try the charge, so I say don't bother. Wasting your time trying these moves will probably lead to your defeat, every time. Now, I am pretty lonely here in Limbo, so I strictly play the one-player version, but I should mention the versus battle options. You have the alternative to either play a one-on-one battle, or a tag match, where you can swap in a partner by retreating to your corner and hitting select, which allows your other fighter to sit it out and regain health, leading to some crazy strategic fight scenarios. While not the first game to pull something like this off, it definitely is one of the first I can think of on a home system, and even though I didn't play with it much, I recognize this is a pretty damn big deal. They fixed a few things here and there, such as Moose being given a complete overhaul and better represented as one of the show's speedier fighters, and the speed has been bolstered somewhat. Hey, remember Gambling King's walk cycle? I think most video game characters walk faster while pushing heavy boulders and crates. There's no one quite that slow this time around, but for the most part, it is still like fighting on the moon. With this game, we've gone from extreme slow-mo to fighting in waist-deep mud. Except for f***ing Shampoo. Again! This is a problem. Shampoo fights like a character ripped right out of Street Fighter Alpha. It's odd because otherwise this game has pretty good character balance, but just like Hard Battle, the speedy ones like Shampoo and Girl-type Ranma are bound to be those cheap characters who players will abuse in versus battles. I was able to defeat her, but mostly via stupid luck. What I immediately took notice of was computer AI. When playing an average fighter, it can feel commonplace to stick with a strategy from beginning to end to blow through the whole game. You really can't do that here. In my first playthrough, jumping in close and low attacking worked for the first 3 fights or so. Then I came face to face with Genma, and he throttled my ass. I had to change my strategy. I cornered him with projectiles, and when he got too close, I had to go airborne and dive at him. I had to switch it up for Ranma Saotome, who could cancel my strong attack with his Hiryu Shotenha attack. The final boss, I thought would be a pushover. I had him on the ropes for the whole battle, then it's like the dude activated and he ended up mopping the floor with me with a shred of energy left. These little touches add personality to the game, and make all these characters feel unique and distinct. A lot of that might not be so much smart computer intelligence, and more so, good character balance. For the most part, the returning roster retained their moves from Hard Battle, and the new characters come loaded with all their signature moves from the series, such as Marco Konjo's Baton Cutter, just as annoying here as in the show. But it's each character's uniqueness that makes every battle different. Panda-type Genma uses lunging attacks and can hop through your projectiles, so button mashing won't work with him. My fight with Marco Konjo happened mostly in the air, and while we were still moving at a constipated pace, the battle felt fast and strategic. Kodachi Kuno has this mean GSP-style move, where not only does she attack at a distance, but she jumps backward as she does so, making the fight a tricky kind of riddle to solve. Fighting Shampoo and Girl-type Ranma is a true test for your twitch reflexes. And then there's Hinako Ninomiya. This battle was fun. The whole fight she's trying to supercharge, and it was up to me to act fast and prevent her from getting big and overpowering me. I can go down the list. Every character has something in his or her repertoire to make every fight stand out as a new challenge, and that's something even fighting games of today can struggle with. Every bit of this game is an improvement from the original. So why am I not having as much fun? Yeah, I'm sure a big part of it is been there, done that. If I hadn't played the hell out of Hard Battle, maybe I would enjoy this more, but I think it goes way deeper. Now I'm sure some people watching right now might be saying I'm not getting swept up in the story of it because I can't read Japanese. Well, they do show me pictures, and I have common sense. Let's see if I'm missing anything. From the looks of it, there is a Maneki Neko statue. Those things have been said to grant wishes. From what I gather, this whole thing is a globe-trotting, round-the-world tournament held by Prince Herb to win the statue to grant its winner a wish of his or her choice? Am I right? If I am, does that really add any more fun? But how about the endings? Even if I could read them, it's just a single boring picture of your fighter, and the story plays out in text. I've played games that do that, and it sucks! So again, what am I missing? There are some other nitpicks I have. First of all, let me go back to the boss fight. Yes, fans were probably clamoring to see Prince Herb in a video game, and that's the reason he's here. But isn't he kinda lame? He comes off as an out-of-place dude in a Spirit Halloween costume who has special moves that, well, are far from all that special. You compare that to Hard Battle, you fought Pantyhose. Okay, he wasn't the most flashy, but then you faced his demon form. Shit! That's intimidating! That right there is what an end boss is supposed to look like. And on top of that, you beat the game as Pantyhose, you fight Haposai, the show's ultimate evil, and a big WTF to anyone not expecting it. If you didn't know Ranma at all going into this and you got to the end, wouldn't you think Prince Herb is just another dude? I think of all the ways they could have improved this. You know how in Street Fighter you had to fight 3 of Bison's minions before you could get your hands on him? Well, Prince Herb has minions! How the hell did they resist the temptation to do that? Another thing, the large roster is welcome, but it makes the single player a bit too long. I kept saying, damn, I gotta be close to the end by now, and then, fuck, Shampoo, I always forget about her. There's something to be said about knowing when to bow out. Sometimes more isn't necessarily better. And finally, while I do really prefer the characters they chose here over Hard Battle's dubious selections, why not include them here in the fight while you still have the sprites? Gambling King, Hikaru Gosen Kugi, Pantyhose, and Hapasai are all gone. Just reuse them! Make that character select even more impressive! When you get right down to it, the characters of Ranma 1/2 are basically like Dragon Ball. They all have the same face, the same build, the only things different are the outfits and the hair. While this roster is impressive, there isn't a whole lot of variety as far as body types, and all the characters who didn't make it from Hard Battle happen to be the ones with the different body types! Gosen Kugi, Hapasai, Gambling King, Pantyhose, bringing them over would have added some much needed diversity to this crew. Like I said, these are nitpicks. These are things that stand out, but they're not ruinous. Hell, the best fighting game has a nitpick or two. But there is one big glaring issue here that is impossible to look away from. Hard Battle's biggest, brightest feature was its aesthetics. When you played it, you felt like you were in Ranma's world. Adding to all the familiar moves and animations, it put you into familiar locales from the anime. The Tendo Dojo, the creepy voodoo forest, Pantyhose's mountain lair. And as for this, I can't say they look bad. These backgrounds are bustling with life. Some of they like beautiful photographs. They really do succeed in transporting you to a place. But that place is not Ranma. It almost feels like someone ran out of time and instead of coming up with ideas for locales, they just grabbed a handful of random postcards. Even to the uninitiated, this comes across as very stock. At least give us one, right? Why can't I fight at the Tendo Dojo? I want to go to the Tendo Dojo! This plays out like an around-the-world vacation album where a fight broke out every time you wanted to pose in front of a landmark. Prince Herb is here. Why am I not seeing a special background for him? Like Ori Mountain in China? Or friggin' Jusenkyo? Why is he in Rome? When I got to the Hawaii level, a part of me was saying, hey, maybe this is actually the gym at Furinken High School. Principal Kuno, he used to do that. I bet he did that. It turns out I feel a lot about this game as I did Ranma 1/2 the movie 1. All the characters are there, they're doing their usual shtick. The plot is more epic than ever. What's not to enjoy? Because the Ranma we love is mixed with too much of all this other crap that I don't love as much. Where the hell are we? Who are these characters? Why are we spending so much time on them? There just isn't enough familiar there to make you feel like you're watching a Ranma movie. It's the same reason people hated Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty. That actually is a great game. But people were up in arms that it didn't focus on Snake and instead on an everyday man with relationship issues. Hell, if you watched any old sitcom, chances are they had that one episode where they sprung the cash to send everybody on vacation. Those episodes are the worst, because the characters are struggling to insert their gimmicks, and the plots typically play out more like action movies these characters have no business being in. What can I say? You like movie 1? You might enjoy this a little more. But to me, this is a glaring, almost ruinous issue. It's so odd to say, because the backgrounds are something so simple, so overlooked in so many other games, but here, I can't see it any other way. The boring fight venues? Killed it! I might be in the minority on this, but I actually prefer Hard Battle over this! It really does come down to simple aesthetics. I think back to the first ever Super Famicom game, Neighborhood Combat Chapter. Anyone who's played this game knows that it's the absolute drex. It controls like pure shit, there's no character select screen, and you're gonna have to rely on cheesing to get you through to the end. I don't think I'm in any minority when I say that that game is trash. But I also don't think I'm in the minority when I say that Neighborhood Combat Chapter is way better than Street Combat, the American localization of the game. But how can that be, DJ Clive? They're both the same exact game. Only with Street Combat, they just ripped out all the Ranma elements. Because the main thing that game had in the first place was its personality. Even if you don't know the source material, it has a sense of fun that is undeniable. You want further proof? Go back to Hard Battle. Back when I was scoring these things, that game scored a 7.5 out of 10, a pretty impressive score. But strip away all the Ranma, what is left? Frankly, I've seen NES games with better fighting mechanics. Without Ranma 1/2's world, Hard Battle is an unpolished, unbalanced, pokey-moving mess of a game. Would you not agree? Hell, you want even further proof? Let's go even further back in time when I first saw these games in those magazines. What was the one reason why I wanted to play these games in the first place? It was all in the way that it looked. Those wild, colorful backgrounds that looked like they had been lived in. That crazy, buggy-eyed panda character I so desired to control. I looked at that game and I saw all-out lunacy, which is very indicative of Ranma as a whole. If you didn't know Ranma 1/2, and you saw a still picture of one of these fights, and if Genma wasn't there, might I add, Would you be itching to try this? I'm not saying this is a bad game. It certainly retains a little bit of the Ranma personality, and you will notice in this review I have prefaced every nitpick with a compliment. Here I'm about to do it again. This game, at a cursory glance, looks awesome. But sadly, it's just not as awesome as it looks. I think the same can be said for all the Ranma 1/2 video games. All the fun that you're gonna have is dependent on the game's character, and that's the kind of character you can see, once again, in a cursory glance. I don't normally do stuff like this, I'm all about the retro content, but I look at the upcoming fan game, Rumiko Takahashi's Ranma 1/2 Rise of the Phoenix Lord, which most notably improves the slow, clunky combat system to mimic the more traditional fighters of today. And that's all well and good for me, but the thing that I'm looking forward to most is being back in that Ranma 1/2 world, with all the locales, all the personality, and the whole party, new faces and old, there along with me. As for Chougi Ran Bu Hen, there just isn't enough Ranma there. You strip Ranma of its Ranma, what you're left with is a Maisani Koku game. Whee! What fun. I'm DJ Clive, and with that I've just hit the checkpoint.